This is the Empress Evolution.
Welcome to Earth School, fellow philosopher. Spoiler alert, you're a multidimensional being with powers you may have thought only existed in stories. Faith or folly, round here we do it all. Many lives, many levels, many masters. Whether it's learning how to cook a healthy meal, navigating the spiritual life, processing our feels, or saving the planet, we're here for all of it. This is the Jessamyn Shows, presented by Empress Evolution.
Welcome, Aurora. It is such a pleasure to have you here. You are a guest on our Spirit World series, which features different mentors that help people navigate the spiritual life, because there's a lot of teachers out there. But you're definitely one of our favorites. Ever since I first saw one of your videos, I think it was a live that you were doing with Amelia, I was immediately resonating with your energy, the words that you were speaking. I felt very comfortable in navigating some of these topics that can be very alarming or disturbing to some, because life is not all that it seems or what I once thought that it seemed. So I really I'm so glad to have you today and to be able to ask you questions. It's really special. So just to get started, will you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about what you do?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, it is such an honor to be here on with you and Jessamyn and Stephanie. It is an honor, and Empress Evolution. And I am excited to be here with you to see what will transform from this beautiful transmission. So yes, I am Aurora. Thank you for introducing me. And you can find more information about me under my Rising Phoenix AuroRa.com, and then also my YouTube and Patreon, all of those same name. And I am known as a spiritual revolutionist, but in a very infinite loving way. So if you can mash both of those together, empowerment, self-empowerment, sovereignty, and how to assist others and how to activate this within themselves constantly every day. So yes, and I am also an author to Galactic Soul History of the Universe, which is right here. It's 740 pages worth of past life regressions. I'm a past life regressionist as well as a channel to the Galactics. And through this book, we go through, and it was internationally 38 different chapters of people's past life regressions. They went into hypnosis and they told their version of one of their past lives that then somehow beautifully, divinely came together and put the galactic history together for us. And something that you mentioned about how we share in things that could be that can trigger us, but we share them in a way where they don't, cause fear. Instead, they cause the reverse, the mirror of that, which would be empowerment. Like, no, I do not consent. So yes, to different things like that. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching one of your videos earlier. It was the one that you had most recently put out about like breaking through the matrix. It was like a set of chains that you had put as the still image, and you had mentioned a thing about shielding that was very helpful for me, because there was I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I'll jump back, I promise. But it was a thing about how there's been a construct or an idea that, oh no, you don't even need to shield, it's fine. And I had noticed that I had kind of gotten sucked into that belief. Like I was like, no, I'm fine, I'm good. But it's terrible things have happened, and I realized that the shielding is super important. So and we'll get a little bit more into some of that later, but to start off, how did you end up getting into this work? How did you discover galactic history? How did you get into hypnotherapy? or do you even call it hypnotherapy? Or is it more just like
Mm,
hypnosis?
past life regression.
Okay.
And then, well, yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. The how I got into it was, it has a lot to do with shielding. Actually, Yeshua, Jesus, started coming to me right around 2012. And I started losing all sensation in my legs. What I realize now is that back then, of course, I didn't know, but what I realize now is that I was ascending. My spirit was literally ascending in 2012 when the energies, like it was like, you can say lifting up, and then I was losing sensation in my legs. So when that happened, I started asking what's going on. I was very good at asking questions. What's going on? You know, I would go to sleep asking, what's happening to me? And then Jesus started teaching me how to use my source energy from within my heart and expanding it around myself so that I could filter out negativity of all kinds. When I started doing that, simple things like us feeling very drained, very exhausted, heavy, like we got the world on our shoulders. We don't realize that all these different things that are occurring are actually but because we were not shielding. And through the book, we actually go through different past life regressions where they explain how this universe, you know, didn't really shield before. It didn't, because we didn't have this artificial consciousness that we talk about. Not a consciousness, it's an artificial intelligence that is called the archons. And so when we were all, so it's not, say, natural to our organic form. However, once they came into our universe, bypassing all sacred laws of our universe, what happened was that we started learning how to use our source energy to not consent, to shield, and to say, hey, I'm about to go to sleep. I'm about to enter the delta brainwave of sleep, which I am the most powerful in. And guess what? You can't use my energy. You can't F with me while I'm in there because I don't consent to you. Okay. So these are all these different things that you're standing in sovereignty and you're saying you do not consent in many forms. So when you filter, then you're not as exhausted. You feel your light will literally, maybe it might be dim because you're exhausted from dealing with work and family, and sometimes family and friends are not too nice. Maybe they don't mean the purest intents for you, and they're draining on your light unless you're setting an intention, again, force field of your source. I am source energy. So yeah, it is beautiful. It becomes a filter that teaches you how to weave with your heart in many ways and becomes your compass. Your heart truly becomes your compass in a heart discerning way. And you become sovereignly powerful in many forms. But the way I began this, though, to explain, I went off track there. But however, yes, the way I began this is because all my life, since I was a little girl, I would have energetic attacks through entities. So I would be very drained, just like I mentioned prior, or I would become paralyzed in my sleep and I didn't know what was going on with me. My energy was being sucked out of me. Even as a tiny infant, I was having nightmares where I was fighting these wars, and now I know they were galactic wars, and I was a tiny child that could, a couple days old, laying in my crib. I was very aware in my crib. I was so aware that I had telekinesis. So my angels hired a ghost to pretend that they were turning on the blenders, moving dishes around, as my bedroom was right in front of our kitchen while I slept. So, and then of course my angels toned down my abilities because my parents would probably freak out if they knew that it was their daughter, Mm-hmm. So we could talk about a long time, but yeah, we won't go into that. But many different situations and experiences that push me further and further and trying to figure out what is going on with me. And in continual guidance, where angels started visiting me in my dreams, taking me into different situations, different realms and dimensions, trying to get through to me that, guess what? You're an angel. Everyone here has a piece of an angel. Everyone is an angelic of some form. So yeah, that's the process I went through. Very intense.
Wow. I mean, so this started from very, very early age. So when did you get into the doing the past life regression through hypnosis?
So yeah, so how I got into that was that I was having a beautiful Caucasian lady kept visiting me in my dreams, and that's exactly how she would show herself. She had short hair, in her 40s, and she was like medium weight, and she was taking me to different realms and places. So at one point she took me to this tall building, white building, and she was interviewing me and she was asking me questions, and I was trying to answer her questions, but I had no idea what I was being interviewed for. And it was like this college or university area full of white tall buildings. And then she interviewed me and said I wasn't ready. And she sent me back down the elevator, because I went up the elevator to meet her, down the elevator. And I went back out and I was like, where am I? That was in my beginning awakening stages, because I went through the process just like everyone else, where, you know, as a teenager, I was very closed in. I just had walls all over me because I could hear people's thoughts, emotions, and it became overbearing. Like I could not take it anymore. So by the time I got to my late 20s, I started developing myself as I found a mentor. I found a spiritual shop that assisted me. So then when I got to my mid 30s, is when I started receiving these dreams, this Caucasian lady. I didn't know then, but then one day I was looking through Facebook, and I would always love to repost like, you know, nice quotes and just to inspire people. So I would do that. When I was doing that, I saw the 3 ways of volunteer come up. And as it was coming up, which if you're not familiar with that, is Dolores Cannon. Are you familiar with Dolores Cannon?
Slightly.
Slightly. Okay. So it comes up and it says 3 waves of volunteer, and I click it and my mind is blown, because I realized then that, oh my goodness, I'm a volunteer. That's why I came here. I came here to assist the earth, the new earth, the 5th dimension, the ascension. And from there, that was at the end of 2016. So then I bought a book, and then beginning of 2017, I went ahead and I had read a book, and then Dolores Cannon was talking about, in case you don't know who she is, she developed QHHT, which is past life regression. And when she developed that, she has over 10 books. I'm not sure how many, but she has a lot. And she shared her past life regression. So similar to what I have going on here, except for mine really goes into depth into the galactic history, entities, you know, all this, you know, Illuminati, adrenochrome, all this stuff that people that perhaps are not quite open, that people perhaps sometimes shy from. It's all within there, and it explains how it is that we've been entrapped by, in many forms, them using us to entrap ourselves. We entrapped ourselves, but they programmed it into us, the archons. So going back to, so then comes January 2017, right? Because I ran into her 2016 ending, and we're in 2017, new year. And I asked my husband, I was like, this looks like a lot of fun. I think I could totally do a past life regression on you. Let's just do one for fun, right? I was actually doing guided meditations for children at my children's school already. So I already knew how to do guided meditations. And these children were traveling to the moon, were traveling to meet their animal totem that was a white wolf, and they were in the, you know, North Pole in the snow, laying with them, and they could feel the breath of the wolf and the fur, and it was just phenomenal. You know, they were traveling, and I didn't realize what I was doing then. But then, yes, I did the past life on my husband, and of course, he was a good sport. He did it, and as he laid there. And I did the script that Dolores had talked about on her book, that it was just like I made it up. You know, it was an elevator script. I put him through floors. When I did that, I thought that I hadn't put him in because he was snoring for 45 minutes. I'm sorry. It felt like 45 hours. No, he was snoring for 45 minutes and he was not responding. So I sat there for 45 minutes saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? See if I got any response from Dolores called it subconscious, but we call it higher self. And no one was responding. Finally, I get a response, and they are talking, and they take us to the new Earth, the fifth dimensional Earth, the ascended Earth, and they show us what it looks like, the colors. They show us that it's shielded. And I was like, why would it be shielded? That's interesting. And, you know, they told us all these beautiful things. And then from there, all of a sudden, just like she did in her book, I asked to speak to his higher self, the higher self consciousness. And when we do that, all of a sudden, his higher self, well, they said that just call us, we are Ra, R-A. And they're the same from the Law of One, except for, I want to clarify, since I channel Ra, the Galactics, they say that there is infringement within the Law of One books. There's several infringements. But going back to this, so then they start talking, and they say that they've been waiting for this moment in time for a very long time. And I'm just like, you know, newbie, you know? I'm just like, what are you all talking about? Okay, I only know that Ra is like, perhaps I might have seen it at that point in the internet, that they are a sun god or something like that. So, you know, from Egypt. And I'm just listening to them, and they're explaining to me how, you know, this was a predestined time. They've been waiting for this long time to get me there in that time and space. It's been very hard, and it's happened finally. And there's missions, and I'm like, wow, okay. And then all of a sudden they say that someone near and dear wants to speak to me. And I'm like, okay. And they say, it's Dolores Cannon. And I'm like, whoa, like, well, you know, I'm just like in disbelief, first of all, because, you know, when we start waking up, we completely are in disbelief about everything. Yeah. So Dolores Cannon starts talking to me. She's talking to me so endearing and so loving, like we're, you know, best buds. That I'm like, who are you? You know, I just know of your books. So as she's talking to me, she's telling me that again, that we're going to be, you know, she's going to be from the Beyond the Veil. We have missions and so on. She wants me to become QSHC certified. So make it short, I agree. And I say, okay, I'll go become QSHC certified. And then from there, my mission begins. Because when my husband wakes up, he said, what happened? Did I fall asleep? And I was like, wow. Well, if I needed any more confirmation that that was Ra speaking and Dolores Cannon speaking, then there it is. Because, you know, he was a somnambulistic, basically, somnambulistic to hypnosis practitioners. We know that just basically the human ego, the human soul steps aside and they're not there ever. What happens is that the higher self or the specific benevolent being that's speaking through them just comes forth. And you're just literally speaking to, say, Dolores Cannon. You're just speaking to Ra. There's no human consciousness in a way because they're not there. They don't remember. They're not in the way. So, so that's how I'm here. I became QHHC certified. I do not practice that. I practice A.U.R.A Hypnosis Healing, Angelic Universal Regression Alchemy, which is past life regression. And at this point, I've been practicing that for 3 years. And today I had my number 352 session.
Wow.
In 3 years. Yeah. Alongside with readings, Akashic readings that I do, classes. So I do all of that. And just wrote her book.
Your work is just phenomenal. Like it's pulling me in, and I'm like, I'm just gonna spend the next several months researching everything that you've come up with, because it's so, I can tell my soul is like really wanting it. Like even before I knew that I was going to be interviewing you, I was hearing my angels saying, you should really look into doing like studying how to get people into a hypnotic state. And I was like, okay, I guess that could be cool. I don't know why, but I guess that could be cool. And then of course, like I've had a little bit of galactic history exposure. And then here you are with like the two of them combined, and it's just so beautiful. So for people that don't know much about galactic history and they're just waking up, why do you think it's important for people to look into it?
Yes. And then also something that you mentioned, you said, I don't know about hypnosis. What's amazing what the our neurological system, our brain waves, how it's constantly shifting within consciousness. We don't realize how it's doing it all the time. When we are, even when a split daydream that makes no sense to us, it is an actual downloaded message from your higher self. Now it's your job to go in there and decipher it just like a dream. So we are in and out of consciousness constantly. So that is probably one of the reasons why your guides might have told you that. And anyone, I encourage you to develop your consciousness in many ways through learning how to travel within time and space, because we all can do it in many forms. And we do it actually all day long, but unconsciously we do it. Now, the galactic history, the reason why that is infinitely important is because there are many entrapments and old programming, old paradigms that are not part of our organic construct. Our organic construct is a beautiful creation of infinite love. Our universe is the very fabric of infinite love. Divine Mother, Divine Father are the creator of who are source, who are us, in an infinity of us. They are who created, and specifically creation itself was sprung forth from Divine Mother, her womb, in creational consciousness. Now, because only Mother has the womb, right? Now, of course, the Divine Father creates the sperm, right? The seeding of it. Now, when you're looking at that, then there has been a very strong programming with thinking that we're helpless and we're victims within this matrix. And that's what we talk about. We talk about how to weave and work through the inverted matrix and work yourself out of it, and how to walk your most organic timeline, blueprint, organic, who you are overall. And so we teach you how to do that, so that you will learn how to no longer allow others to tell you or tell you otherwise, tell you what to do. You become very much the creator that you're meant to be organically. You start walking the predestined 5-dimensional timeline that you created for yourself before you walked in, before you came in, before you incarnated. You start walking that very same path. What happens is, for example, I will share this one example that recently occurred, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. So what we teach is that we are this infinite being here in the now. So we talk about Ascended Masters. We talk about how the Ascended Masters have talk about it, but they talk about it through me as the channel. But it's not my information, it's the universe's information, is what I always teach. Okay, so they talk about how in the now, in the present now, we are the most powerful, because we don't realize that we're connecting to time itself within here. So we can connect both to our future self, which could be future self of Earth, or future self of the higher dimensions, because our future selves can also be seen as we ascended consciousness in the 5th, 6th, 8th, 10th dimension, 13th dimension, or an infinity beyond the 13th dimension, past our construct here. So we have my puppy here is trying to eat my cat right now. So let's see. And as we're going through, and we are going through the process of traveling these dimensions, we are the bridge here to both the future self and the past self of us. So think about how powerful that is.
Yeah.
That is infinitely powerful, okay? Because not only can you connect, if you remove your negative programming, your false belief systems, and you also start really using your I am source shielding, this taps you into becoming your own Merkaba, your own toroidal sphere consciousness that you're traveling within time and space. But first of all, you need to set those intentions, because you don't want to be traveling within time and space unless you have intentions, because negative polarized entities can try to trick you along the way. And through the galactic history, there are many different forms that they explain how a beautiful benevolent being in the 8th dimension, and we've gone as high as the 15th dimension, and how the archons invaded their planetary sphere Okay, so how's that possible? That's not possible, right? It's insane. However, through the book, they explain how it is that they did it and how they are doing it in different universes. So the reason why what we're explaining here is that you're this powerful being is because you can travel within time and space and get what's about to happen in the future and also heal your past self, because a lot of your past self contains a lot of accumulated trauma, a lot of trauma. And the reason why people are stuck here is because they never were able to ascend out. They were never able to heal, bring their trauma up to the surface, and then release it, heal it, remove it. They're too scared of it. They don't want to talk about the shadow. They don't want to, what shielding? No, that's not like what? No, I'm like infinite source, but that's archonic programming, artificial programming from how they feed the human ego. They feed us downloads. Yeah. Because what they explain through the galactic history is that when you don't basically use your source energy, it's like you're consenting for them to infringe upon you when you're traveling through time and space and you don't even realize it. So they tell people that they don't have to shield, so that they're basically, you're an open door, an open window. They could just come in and infringe upon you. One of my beautiful colleagues, Laura Eisenhower, my beautiful friend, she talks about how not consenting. So this is really important. You put your boundaries down. So those galactic history, going back to how you are your most powerful bridge back and forth. You can go through and heal yourself constantly all day long if you understand that this is who you are. And the more that you heal yourself in many forms, both future and past self, and you become that time traveling machine, right? The more that you uplift in ascending consciousness, because your consciousness is constantly ascending. Every time you heal past, you just ascended your consciousness further. You heal perhaps a future self of you that is also intertwining with the you now, because all time and space is within itself, like a paper fan, right? You make a paper fan and then you fold it and all the creases are one. So that's how time and space is working. So as you're healing all these different pieces of the fan that you are, those creases of the fan that you are becoming the most powerful source, sovereign being. And it is invincibly, you become amazing. And at that point, then you learn how to weave come out of the inverted matrix, and then you learn how to walk your organic matrix, your organic blueprint that you wrote before you were born. So, yes.
That's a lot. I mean, it's so good. And I'm a mother and I have a 6-year-old son, and he has moments where he's like afraid of the dark, or he doesn't want to sleep alone, or sometimes he has these nightmares. So for those of us that have children, are there any rules or guidelines around like protecting our children? Because how can we guide them so that maybe they don't get as many of these like traumas that we've accumulated over space and time? Or is that like their own thing for them to figure out in their own time and way?
No, you're their mother. You're their protector. You're their guardian. It is all you. There's the mother divine, we're mothers, we're fathers to these to our children, and that was our role. So in many forms too, we've been taught that, you got to let them, perhaps, yes, they do have to learn their lessons, absolutely, but there is organic lessons, and then there's infringing inorganic lessons that constantly, the organic timeline, it's like you're walking, say, a golden path, and then constantly, let's not say constantly, but since we are in an inverted matrix, all these souls are trapped here, and that's why we volunteer to come here to help them shift out. Okay, but then we forgot. We became entrapped in the own entrapment, and we became part of the inverted matrix ourselves. So as they're walking their path, there's going to be things, distractions, people who are going to try to steer them out of the path constantly. So your role as the mother that you are, or as the parents that we are their teachers, we are their guides, and we need to take more responsibility in that. And yes, you can assist them, but still find balance where you're still allowing them to, of course, have their life and flow with it. Now, as a mother, what we suggest for you to use your source energy and put a bubble around you. You could do a bubble, you could do a Merkaba, you could do a flower of life. You could sit yourself in a beautiful rose, and the petals around you can be all these beautiful layers of source love light around you. Okay, there's many different ways you can sit inside a lotus flower, many different ways that you can provide, say, shielding of not consenting. And then you teach your children, the minute that they start, they're able to communicate with you. You teach them how to rub their hands together and expand energy. You teach them how to use the force around them. You teach them how to connect to the water, and connecting to the water and connecting to the life force within it. You teach them how they can telepathically communicate to all life forms around them. And then everything that you are learning, we all need to start taking our mission even more, say, seriously, that we're their teachers. And we need to teach them everything that we're learning, because they can learn it. And honestly, they're even more stronger than we are.
Yeah, I believe
So
that.
there are teachers in many forms, more so. Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that my son is, we have an ability to connect telepathically. We'll like think the same thoughts, or like I'll be thinking something and then he'll say it, or it's just, it's really mind blowing. And I've been wanting to know how I can protect him better at night. And
So the
not,
minute you wake up, you light a candle, you set your intentions of what we said. And then before the sun goes down, ideally, you want to again light a candle and set your intentions and teach him how to do a bubble around him. It's that simple. You begin with that, and then you can expand it further if you want. After that, you can teach him how to root himself to the trees and connect to the trees that are pillars of light. And then himself using those pillars of light around him in the trees to shield himself. You can teach him in many forms how to connect to the water within him that is all around him, and also water within the air, to be that providing. We need to learn how to, the movie, what's that show, the Last Airbender, Avatar, Aang, one of our favorite shows. We need to learn that we can actually wield the elements like that, and then teach our children that we can do that as well, simply with our imagination.
Yep. Isn't that so funny? As like so much about awakening has been like, oh, your imagination is actually your greatest tool.
It is. It's our time traveling machine and our connection to everything.
It's
Our imagination.
It's been, I feel like I've been through a lot of trauma, especially in the womb space, and I feel like in this inverted matrix, as you refer to it, there's so much misuse of the feminine energy when it comes to our to sharing ourselves sexually and being in relationships and settling. And I need this relationship for money's security. I mean, what are some of the basic first steps that you would recommend for people to like help get themselves out of that and remove that trauma?
Yes, so sacral energy is extremely important to us because it provides creational energy. If you want to know where your creational energy is, definitely in your sacral, and it is like you have a literal creational cave inside of you, and it's your, say, divine cave that you can enter through all the time through meditation and so on, or dream time. This it could also be seen like the divine mother of creation's cave. Okay. So there is much healing, especially since you mentioned the womb, much healing that the collective is doing when we're surfacing things like adrenochrome, and how, the negative polarized superstars, of course, there is positive, but how they're using the children's blood to feed off them. It's very and every about 90 to 95% of the past life regression healing hypnosis that we do, the past life regression, where I want to also clarify that what I really love about this is that they go in and they talk to their higher self. The client does. They talk to their higher self. It's their own self-healing they're doing. where no one is being their savior. Now they have, of course, archangels, divine mother, or benevolent beings assisting them if they need healing during it, but it's them connecting. So when you are healing, when I'm doing these past life regressions, it is a very, the biggest thing is sexual trauma in current life and past life trauma through, abuse. Lots of people who, especially right now, who have been part of human trafficking, child trafficking rings that are healing themselves, that are going through the process, which could be very hard because they use black magic and it fractures the soul in many ways. And it even now in this time and space, even if from a past life, they're still carrying that black magic and the black magic technology, and their souls are fractured in sometimes millions of pieces through this trauma of constantly abusing a child in this way, or even females or males or young, so about 90 to 95% were healing trauma. Now we don't go into it every single time, but they heal it in some form in our past life regressions, because that is actually, if you want to know what the biggest density, the biggest darkness that's holding us back is sexual trauma in our collective. So if you want to heal yourself in that form, that is a very important one, because the majority of us have had some kind of trauma through that in past life or currently. Okay. Now, something that I want to share back to, that we are the most powerful being here in the now, because we can connect to the future self and past life self. I was talking to this beautiful student of mine that is practicing raw Reiki healing. We teach how to do it. It's Reiki, but we teach you how to self-heal yourself and others, on how to remove implants, hooks, dark portals where they're feeding in entities through, all these crazy stuff that is part of the inverted matrix. Okay. So he was talking to me about, we had a class with a group, and I was explaining to them how right now last year was a lot of unraveling, saving our children of the earth, bringing forth these adrenochrome issues and how we're bringing it to the surface, really unraveling. And then this year is going to be a lot of healing this within ourselves and other selves. And I explained within the time and space, we might be having dreams where we're assisting children in some form, and you don't realize that you really are assisting that child in the dream, in the delta brainwave. You really are assisting that group. If you're dreaming that, if you went in and you healed and you assisted children out of a location, out of a building, many of us are having those dreams. So when I said that very same night, he went to sleep, and he said, thank you for telling me this, because that very same night I had a dream where I went into the delta. It just happened with his higher self, right? And as we were deciphering his dream in class, he was talking about how he went and he connected to an 8-year-old boy. And then he realized this 8-year-old boy was him. This 8-year-old boy was part of a human trafficking ring. And it was a lot of them. They were all trapped. And the way that his consciousness showed him is that they were all in a bus, and they were all on the same path, and they couldn't get out. At some point, the bus was going to tumble over a cliff. Okay, because it was like this huge windy road that they were going to go through, but instead it went over a cliff and it fell into water. Anytime you dream that you're drowning in water, that means you're drowning in the artificial, the inverted matrix. Okay, so this now bus full of children's souls are drowning in the matrix, and they can't get out, and they're all drowning. They all drown, but he knows that he can travel within time and space. He goes in, he grabs, so he's viewing it like from kind of like a higher self aspect, or the him now, right? In this now in space, right. Pulls out the 8-year-old self of him, pulls him out of the bus and saves him. So this is why we teach this, only you can save yourself. He saves his own 8-year-old boy that went through all that horrific trauma. And then guess what? He just healed his timeline. The reason why he healed it is because, remember how we talked about how you made your predestined organic timelines? So the reason why he can go back in time and space and remove that artificial timeline, because it's artificial, it's not, it wasn't part of the organic timeline. So he can eradicate, transmute that false timeline that the archons created, where they human trafficked and harmed all those children. And now he can pull and heal that self and embody it more in its true organic timeline that it was meant to be. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Because again, the archons pierce through time and space through with negative technologies. See, technically they can't come in, but their artificial intelligence comes in like tentacles, is what they show, like connecting through satellites, negative cameras, phones, all this negative technology we're surrounded by. They use, those are their bridges to connect through and infringe upon us. And then with that, they're constantly creating false timelines for people so that they could keep feeding off their light, because they are an absence of light. The archons they are inorganic. They're not of our source. Long ago, they separated from whatever source they separated from, became an absence of light and love altogether, and became an abomination of artificial. And now this is what we're going through the Galactic History of the Universe, our book. We go through, and it's like you're literally going through your every single page that you will read. You're unshackling the shackles that are keeping you binded through all false paradigms and false downloaded information in all forms. And you go through the most powerful, beautiful, catalyzing, if you're ready to shift your consciousness. And I'm telling you, we all are ready, especially after all this virus, we'll call it virus crap that's been going on since March. But again, it served this purpose as well. It really awakened many.
Yeah.
We are ready to remove those chains, cages, and shackles around us.
Yes, so ready. That's probably why my higher self is like, you need this book. You need to have it.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it
really is.
sounds like you've put, I mean, it's a, you said it's a collection of how many different past life regression sessions?
38 different past life regressions. And there is, I believe, about 4 chapters though that I channeled information, because we also talk about the 13 keys of the laws of the universe, and how, so this chapter goes into these sacred laws that we've forgotten about, that if we remember that we have free will, we have the law of vibration, which is the throat, we have the sacral chakra, which is the law of rhythm. We have all these different sacred laws, and then we started walking the path of these sacred laws. Guess what? They can't infringe upon you, because you're so empowered and you're like, hell no, you cannot infringe upon me. I don't freaking consent to you, because I am powerful and I know that I have these sacred laws that I walk through every day. Doesn't mean that might not try, but the minute that they try, you will figure it out and you'll be like, nope, I'm a sovereign being and I walk my 13 sacred laws of the universe where I am free.
I love that these laws in the galactic are also how in the collective right now, people are learning about how the laws work in the government too. So I just love the mirroring of like as above, so below, right? And you were talking about how there are these bridges that we can connect to source, but the Archon are using these similar bridges as tentacles instead. So that like things are this duality, it's this way or that way. And how I wanted to ask you about, your book is so much about remembrance, right? Remembering these laws and acting, right? And I've heard you talk a bit about your book before, and why you wrote this was to help people activate and remember themselves again. So could you talk a bit about that?
Thank you, Stephanie. I love that. That's what it is. It's a galactic soul history remembrance. Because since we all wanted to fractalize from source, right? So, but in order to come out of source, we have to incarnate in an infinity of constructs, of universes, and so on. When we do that, in a sense, we are vulnerable if we forget. So then when we start remembering, we're not vulnerable, we're invincible. And this is what this book will do to you, because we all fractalize. The way we teach is that we're all a different expression of one another, right? So when we're doing that, that's the reason why we decided to come out of source. We wanted to journey and express ourselves and all this joy and remembrance. So when we decided to incarnate in all these different locations, then in different parts of the universe, then we come back to source and we laugh about it. I went here and I learned all this, and here's a new download for our infinite consciousness of source, and here's a new experience. So then in many forms, when we remember our different experiences, it's even if it's not us, but it is us, right? Other self, us, other expressions of us, we remember the soul. And then we're truly living our organic, or say agreement, you can say, or organic decision together that we were going to venture out in the infinity of the universe. And as you read every single one of these galactic history, past life regression stories, you will remember your soul, because they're higher self speaking, you will find that what they're saying completely correlates with your life in many forms. And little by little, you release a layer, like an onion, a layer of negativity, a layer of falseness, a layer of artificial. And it's beautiful.
I love that. Thank you. That Jessamyn. I also wanted to perhaps add on to that. The sharing of our stories is the whole point of this. We have forgotten so much about, back in indigenous culture, the elder would sit there, we'd tell stories, and we learn best through stories. So I think it's great that you've compiled all these stories like an elder, instead of like having to gather people and speak to them. You're like, here's this book, and you can learn through the stories of other people, so you don't have to do it. Because if I experience it in my imagination, then I'm clearing it already by myself. You know what I mean? Because because you told me that was the thing, and then I lived it out in my brain, and therefore that collapses a timeline. So I think this book is amazing in that you've compiled that to basically do that.
Wow, yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. Have you read it yet?
No, I've just heard you talk about.
You just like channeled like the main introduction. Your higher self just channeled through you the introduction on what this book is about. And down to even the introduction, I took the most beautiful care in channeling the most beautiful transformations, all of it. It is a magical, wonderful remembrance. And exactly what you said, this is why we did it. So this is why. So why not? Let's enjoy ourselves. Let's learn about ourselves. Let's journey. And then there's something that you said that I actually wrote in the book, Stephanie. I wrote in the book that when I was a little girl, I was very quiet. People thought, I was mute. And I would sit there and I would observe everyone. And as I observed them, I would learn from them, because I would see the mistakes or bad decisions they would make, let's say that. And then I would say, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then I would learn my lessons through them. And then I would learn that I don't have to go through perhaps what they're going through, because they're being that example for me, so that I cannot be that, or I don't have to go through that. So yeah, it's really beautifully explained in the book in detail though. Yeah,
I got really emotional there for a moment, just because this has been such a challenging life experience in so many ways. Of course, it's full of beauty as well, but there's so much sadness and just tragedy that we've had to face. And now I feel like this work that you're presenting, it's like, hey, if you just do these simple things that are extremely powerful, it kind of answers a lot of questions. Like anytime you're going to like a different healer or an advisor or someone that you're interested in their information, if you're just protecting yourself and shielding yourself, you can save yourself a lot of um, negativity, I guess, so to speak. And it's just,
Yes, yes.
you're blowing my mind in the best of ways.
Yes, and to add on to that, we have, it's 555 here. We send love to the children of the earth on 555.
I have that in my phone too, 555.
Yeah.
And I do, because at 6 o'clock, one of my mentors told me that is the time where divine feminine energy gets poured down on earth. So
Beautiful.
yeah, so at 555, I always do like a meditation where I send light until 6 o'clock on the earth. So it's so funny that you have a 555 pray for the children.
Yes, yes. We do that on our YouTube channel. We do 555 for children, and we do 111 for healing Mother Earth, period. And then we do 444 for eradicating the falseness of the virus. So what were we saying before that?
I also think people should join in and do this too. If they're watching this,
Oh, yes, please join us.
They should set it on their phone and join us, because that's how that works, right? You join us, you'll help us anchor and send even more love to these people and to Earth that need our help. So that would be awesome. If you're watching it, please do that.
And I love that you said love, because you don't ever want to send your love light. You know how people say, I sent love and light, brother, love and light.
Mm-hmm.
Never send your light, because that's Archon's way to trick you. Never send your light to anyone. That's your light. You keep it for yourself. That's your sovereignty. Okay. So send love, because remember, love transmutes archons. If you are infinite love, if they try to, say, pierce through your auric field, you will transmute them and eradicate them. Okay. But there was something that you said prior,
I was
Jessamyn.
talking about how like there's like these tools that you're providing
That's
us.
right.
I
remember. I channeled this. So the truth is that I'm not going to remember any of this when we're done. So I instantly forget. Now, so they always have me rewatch them because I'll forget what we talked about. Okay. But now it's really important what you said, how if you surround yourself with this source energy, your own source energy, how you can weave yourself out of, say, getting involved with a false healer, you know, because we've all had that. Goodness, we've all had that, and they've traumatizing. So that's what they do. They go in all forms, in whichever way they can, and they download false information. They see a pure soul, like for example, you and this beautiful pure light, and then whoever they can get across through their ego and their mind, they will link their tentacles or whatever false downloads, because again, these people don't know how to shield. And then the only way to get to you is through them, because you're not allowing them in. You understand what I'm saying? When you stand in your sovereignty, they can't get to you. So they use the people around you that are you know,
not there. And like that's what's happened to me so much in this last year, is that the more that I've stepped into my sovereignty, the people around me that I love so much have been used against me to try to get me to get into an anger state, or to feel lonely, or just like want to give up on, like, what am I even doing here on this planet? Are you sure you didn't make a mistake, God? Like that kind of thing. Is there anything that we can do other than just wish them love and send them love, to help? I don't know, maybe it's not even about helping them, it's really just about how do we kind of integrate these experiences that are going on around us when people are being used against us, like what's a good way to deal with that?
Yes. So the reason why we're in this inverted matrix is the main reason is because the people around us have kept us here, the ones that chose not to, say, shift in consciousness or activate their hearts or, be of love. So what happens is that in the book, we go through the last chapter, but you have to go through it in order because you go through this transformation of ascending consciousness. But in the last chapter, we go through matrix, and the client is in a matrix pod. And I am trying to figure out why the heck is she in a matrix pod, like the movie, The Matrix. And then we realize that there's a reason why we call this a simulation. We're all in matrix pods. And when you go through and you basically start standing in your sovereignty, releasing all these negative paradigms, you literally come out of the pod. Okay. So there's a lot more to that. You can read about that in the book. Now, what happens is that since they can't quite say taint your heart, and you're like, no, you're not, no, I can see through you. Then these people around you are the same people that have been with you every single life. All of them. You die, you come back with them again. You say you were with use this as an example. Say you were with, say, a bad guy role person. Maybe they killed you in another life, and then you're back with them again. And this time, maybe they unfortunately raped you, and then you die and you're back with them again, constantly, over and over, the same scenario. And then you can't ascend out until you become a Jesus, a Buddha, and you see that, hold on, I am in a simulation, and this is false. This negative that you're trying to control me with is false. I am infinite source. So that's when you ascend out, like those beautiful ascended masters, like Saint Germain and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Yeshua and Buddha, because they saw through the falseness. So the way that the other thing before I explained this is that you don't realize that they explained to me, is they said 84%. 84% of the baggage that you are carrying, it's not even yours. They showed me in a dream, they said, Aura, they showed me people walking around, they were just like so heavy. They were like, oh, they could barely walk. They were so heavy. And then they said, these people don't even realize that 84% of that density, heaviness, darkness, it's not even theirs. They're carrying everyone around them's baggage. And so long as they keep carrying it, they will never be able to send out, because they will never be the right vibration, the highest vibration to ascend out. So that's their biggest tool or biggest falseness that they use, is the people around to keep you there, to keep you low vibrational. And then back again, and you're harvested, just like the movie Matrix. Your light is. And we have, so in my YouTube channel, we have over 350 videos. And we talk about the 2/3 world split video. You want to watch that because there was a portal that began 12/21/2020, right around the book when this came out. And that began to split, and began the actual new earth splitting, the 5th dimensional splitting. And that video goes in depth on that. And what's occurring is that we're watching a very distinctly the world splitting into 3 worlds. One world is the artificial, show you briefly so you could understand what I'm saying. It's 2 circles intertwining to one another. Okay. So one world is artificial, one world is organic. This right here is the bridge. Mm-hmm. You're walking, those who are aware of the artificial, and we're like, nope, I see you. we're walking right here. So this is the artificial 3D. This is 4D bridge. This is 5D organic timeline, because that's a long story. I know we're running out of time, but yeah. So you're walking back and forth between these. You're helping people anchor out of that if they allow it. Those are people who allow it, right? Who are ready. But this is what we're seeing in all aspects. You're seeing work, and you're seeing the splitting of benevolent beings, and then you're walking right beside them, the negative beings, right, walking right next to you. You understand? All aspects in our world are splitting into 2 third world splits. Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I'm like, okay, it's time for the book. It is so time for the book, because I mean, it's like, this is one interview. You can't like be like, okay, here's all the things, everyone. You know, it's just like, all right, everyone, Aurora is amazing. Get this book. Please read it and help yourself out of this inverted matrix. And that will help assist others too, because then you're like, you know, raising the vibration of others around you, right?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. So your book is available through
Under
Amazon, on
Amazon.
your website. Where are all the places we can find it?
So you can find it under Amazon. If you're looking for it internationally, you would go under your country's Amazon. And also it is available in digital, and we're also working on audio. And I am Hispanic, so we do have it working on translating it. That will be out upcoming in the future in Spanish. And yes, when you could also read the first 2.5 chapters for free under Amazon, and just read the first chapter. That's it. And you will see what we're talking about.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Right.
Thank you so much. I feel like I have like a million questions for you, but we really should let you go. But thank you again for joining us on the Jessamyn shows for Empress Evolution. There's so many beautiful divine feminines and divine masculines that will watch this and will get a lot out of it. So thank you for your presence and your guidance. It's so appreciated, and we hope to see more of you for sure.
Thank you. It is an honor. I love you, honor you, and respect you. My infinite love to everyone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Rising Phoenix AuroRa, everyone. A true queen. Thank you, love.
Thank you.
All right.